What is going on, guys?
You talked first in this episode
What?
of the Rise Productive Podcast. That's crazy.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to welcome you back to the show, episode 56.
We know the number because we just recorded one, and second time around, you remember the number.
The double-decker, man. It's a good day.
I like when we do these. It's definitely more task batchy.
Yeah, it's just a smart thing to do.
It's more productive. Why did I come all the way down here to hang out outside of hanging out with you?
You didn't come to hang out. You came to do the podcast.
I came to do this. I'm sick of the virtual. No, the virtual was going fine.
Yeah, they're fine. I mean, it's never.
That's the way to put it.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. That little period.
Yeah. You texted me afterwards and was like, "Yeah, I can do this for a while though." So that was good. I appreciated that.
I was just very worried about the transition. I was
dude. If you don't think I wasn't? Oh God, I was worried.
I think this is a more fundamental issue. I think we've talked about this, where I just I do a poor job with keeping in touch with people who aren't like in my immediate proximity. So I just feel like nothing, long distance ever translates, but this is going well.
This is going well. We've seen Step Brothers, right?
Yeah.
We just become best friends. We are keeping in touch.
We are.
That's good.
Yeah, even outside the podcast.
Yeah, that's good. I think it got really personal real quick. Anyways, yeah, no, I think it's been good. We've been keeping in touch, so that's nice.
Yeah. How you been since the last episode?
Okay, I already planned out what I was gonna BS for this. No, I thought about another aspect of my life I hadn't brought up. I don't want to give out too much. I mean, we're gonna hang out, so but I've been starting a routine. I have a plan to become a fit individual outside of just running. I know I talked about being the local 5K legend, and I still want to do that to an extent. However, I came to the realization I only really need to run 18 minutes to make that happen, because who runs faster than that when you're running a suburban Chicago 5K?
Okay.
I'm just trying to get to the point in my life, and I have this training plan I'm making, where I run 30 to 40 a week, maybe even 25 to 40 a week, right? I run long runs with the boys if they're around, or people in general. I stay aerobically stable. I'd maybe do some slight workouts, some tempos, whatever. But my goal is to just look like a fitter dude.
You guys are lifting?
No, I'm going to do a plyo scenario. I have this goal of, doing sort of a push-up / plank sort of core routine.
Oh,
that's focused.
HIIT?
Yeah.
A high intensity interval training?
Sort of. I started something last week where I started messing around with a plan of doing. Have you seen slow push-ups and you're obviously familiar with how lifting works in the sense of if you go slower on lifts, you then get the more breakdown of muscles that then builds it up better, and you actually should do things. I want to get to the point of doing a lot of good core work, a lot of good strength work, to where this doesn't look as, granted, I felt like it was always okay looking, but I'm just saying I would prefer that to fill out a little bit more, and for me to not be as runner looking.
For people listening to the podcast, you hovered over your chest and arms.
It doesn't look bad, but I don't think I'm I was stronger, I'd say, than the average cross country runner, but I don't think I was that strong of a dude after I stopped playing football and whatever. And I want to get back to feeling better as a person, and I don't think running 60 to 80 a week helps. Yeah.
No, I get that. Aside from the centimeter of cartilage you lose in your knees every 3,000 miles, it's also just I don't know. You see these adults, people with real jobs, and they're distance runners. It's just you still look like a boy.
I don't want that. I would say I have the infrastructure to look better than a boy.
The infrastructure. That's funny.
It was funny though how you just casually said the 3,000 mile thing. You're losing what is it?
Every 3,000 miles, apparently you lose a centimeter of knee cartilage.
Not millimeter? Centimeter?
Maybe it's a millimeter.
I would say I hope it's a millimeter. I feel like centimeter. We've ran a few thousand in our time, so how big 4 centimeters would be
Yeah, it's definitely a millimeter, but still.
Okay, but still, no, I understand what you mean. Losing knee cartilage is not good, and I've heard of this, and it's bad. And what's crazy? I know people who ran a lot in high school that when they would, a buddy, relative term. Do you know who I'm referring if I'm casually just slide in the...
From high school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. he had problems even when we take our 2 weeks off of then coming back and running, and the buildup would come up a little bit and his knees would be wrecking him because the cartilage would be allowed to regrow mildly and it would hurt.
Yep.
Have you heard of this?
This happens to me all the time when I come back.
Oh, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I think it's I think running is one of the hardest sports to get into, even though it can be one of the, I don't know, easiest, but like it can be one of the most fun and easy to maintain. Just the barrier to entry is just so endless. And one of the things is knee cartilage.
So I basically want to get into, I want to be One Punch Man. Are you familiar with this? Like he's like, I do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and run 10K every day. And that's how I become the strongest man in the world. It's like this anime meme sort of thing. He's like becomes one of the strongest people in the world just by doing that. Like there's monsters and all that kind of stuff, but he's like extremely strong and it's hilarious. I think that workout routine is just solid. Like I do some, push-ups, do some planks, side, front, get my obliques in, get the front, do a back, so like front, back, and both side planks.
Yeah.
Do normal push-ups, do outside push-ups, inside, diamond, normal, and then have days where I sometimes just do the very slow and controlled one. And from there, I'll just look like a fit individual. I don't really need to run like 60 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
No, I like that regimen. I think that, I don't know, hot take, but I kind of like don't really like lifting at all. I think that's very unnatural. I mean, I don't know, nowhere in nature before we invented the weight room did anyone just like pick up heavy stuff like this.
Just do it over and over again? Yeah.
Well, yeah, at least it wasn't so uniform and calculated. Like maybe you picked up like a tree that you just cut down or something. But it's like,
exactly.
I don't know. When you work muscles so symmetrically and uniformly, it's just like, this is unnatural. And then we end up with unnatural bodies, like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something like that. It's just like, this is weird.
I think he's definitely an example of something I don't want to be like. I'm trying to think of an example of a fit. Like, I don't want to not, just imagine what I look like, but a little more like chiseled. That's like not much. And I'd say I'm doing all right in regards to my shape look. I'd say I didn't look very boyish for a cross guy because I was a middle distance guy, but like peak tweener stage between when I was like becoming a cross guy and football guy, I remember that. I liked that because it was like, I'm like got some muscle on me. I feel strong as a human being up top and I can lift things, but in the same breath, I can also whoop you in a race. So like I want to do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, did you know the science behind, like Lamong is like jacked. Right?
Yeah.
I would like to look like that. But here's the thing. A lot of guys can't because the way that working out when you do long distance stuff like that, a lot of these distance guys, they don't look like they're strong. But I mean, they're like yoked. Like in the sense of they can rep out stuff over and over again that we couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
Like Lagat's apparently been someone who's been jacked and you're not able to get the muscle buildup aspect of it due to the type of exercise you do. Running prevents that muscle buildup. I'm forgetting the terminology, but essentially if you're doing that kind of working out versus just lifting, you can work out a lot, you can get even improve in a lot of ways, but you will see marginal physically, like you can't see the gains in the muscle. Like the strength goes up, but you don't get the actual like bulk. It's interesting.
I see. So you look at one of these distance runners.
Some of them are jacked,
but they don't look jacked. On the surface, they don't look jacked. But then when you read a little deeper,
I mean, yeah, seriously.
And you quit straw manning these distance runners.
I didn't even know what he just did.
What did I just do? That?
He just segued a podcast, and I get a little handshake out there.
We can do that in person.
Dang, man. He's learned. I'm so proud. At the start of this, I felt like I was pulling the weight on the segues, and
I'm trying.
I think I even remember sometimes when listening to our intro how nervous you were when we were recording the intro.
Oh yeah,
it was bad.
Yeah, man. I mean, it takes time. You just gotta get comfortable with having the microphone and the camera on you, but.
I was like, you'll get there, but I'm just going to be blunt because I've been doing this for sounds bad. I know you don't think it sounds bad, but in the future you'll hear this and think it sounds bad. So we're going to keep doing this until you're pretending you're talking to me. And then I just want to get this intro out of the way because I'm not waiting months for that to happen.
Are you talking about the intro that plays every time an episode starts?
So it sounds good, right?
We do need to fix that.
No, I don't even think it sounds awful. It does sound worse than you sound now, granted. But like we took like 10 takes.
Yeah, we did.
And that's not a slight on you. It's a slight on psychology and how that works. But yeah, I'm just proud of you. I've seen some progress, and you just made a good one there. So,
oh, thank you.
And it's just like how you said though. We need to not just be baseline with things. We need to read into things, and that's why we're going to talk about a very interesting topic that you suggested that I'm into.
Yeah, it's called straw manning. I got the idea from Power Score, excuse me. It's the study textbooks I've been doing for the LSAT.
Oh.
And for the logical reasoning section, there's like 13 different types of questions, and one of them is called flaw in the reasoning. At least that's how they categorize it.
Okay.
It's interesting. At different study companies will use different names, but regardless, they call it flaw in the reasoning. And they basically lie out that there's a certain number of argumentative mistakes you can make on like the LSAT, I don't know, authors only make a certain number of mistakes. And it's really pretty accurate of real life. So there's like, sunk cost, like appeal to authority, emotion, what have you, ad hominem?
Homonym?
Yeah.
Ad hominem?
Yes. So there's like a bunch of these, but one of them was straw manning. And I had always kind of like heard about it, but I think I always used the term wrong.
It's possible.
I always got that confused with just attacking someone's character, but it really is different. And I think it's a phenomenon that we've talked about a lot on this podcast, but haven't really like directly or verbally, mentioned it. So I thought we'd talk about it.
Did you catch what I just did?
With the hand?
Yeah.
Too much of the hand?
I was trying to tell you not to tap. I don't know if the mic's picking it up or not.
maybe not.
I think you got it. That was interesting. That was pretty sly. I think maybe you have, and I have accidentally used the term wrong, maybe wrong or a little outside of the frame of what it is. However, as mentioned in our chit chat before this podcast, we don't need to correct people on stuff if we know the intent of the verbiage. So
exactly.
I think it's good though that we're going to clarify it.
Yeah. So essentially, for anyone that doesn't know, like me until a couple of days ago, basically straw manning is this idea of not necessarily attacking someone's character in like the most genuine sense, but essentially, reading the very shallow version of someone's argument and then not fully understanding it, distorting it in some kind of way, and then restating it in a way that makes it sound worse, and then saying, immediately rebutting it because it sounds so bad. A lot of times in regular language, you'll hear it as, like, let's say, like, Dimitri, like, you make some point. And then I reply, so if I understand you correctly, or if you're saying this, and it's like, every time someone says that, you should be sussed out because they're saying something that is not going to be exactly what you said.
But it's straw manning the scenario. It's
going to be a distorted version of what you said, and then they're going to use that distortion to fight back.
Exactly. So the definition, which you did a really good job of explaining, is a straw man is a form of argument and an informal fallacy of having the impression of refuting an argument, whereas the real subject of the argument was not addressed or refuted, but instead replaced with a false one. So the straw man is the fake thing that you're arguing against. One who engages in the fallacy is said to be attacking a straw man because you're making a straw man. That's a good. Yeah, you did good. I wanted to see what if you still got it, because I feel like it's like I think I know what I'm talking about, and then I'll look up the definition and go, oh man, I really wish I hope people know what I'm meaning and like not definition shaming me. But yeah, I think this is an interesting topic because there's a lot of funny stuff that made you think of it, as well as your Power Score stuff, which was funny because you said Power Score and I thought Super Score from ACTs. I thought it was called Power Score for a second in my head. But I mentioned Captain Sinbad on a previous YouTube video. He is so funny, man.
And he just pokes at the whole idea of straw manning and like all those. I don't know. There's a folder in his YouTube now. It just says like watches blank once.
Mm-hmm. Like my favorite one is Between Three. He does a Matt Diavello one, which is really funny, an Ali Abdul video, which is really funny, and a Gary Vee video. And an example for anyone, because I feel like I like doing a Ali Abdul impression. I've done it on the podcast way too many times, but he'll be like, do you know how he went on a date with a girl and he basically over exaggerated how much Ali cares about his typing speed. And he's like, do you know how fast I can type? Do you want to see how fast I can type? 180 words. And then he basically just made him look like this complete idiot. But same thing happened with the Gary Vee one where he goes like, I just go out there and I just bust out content. If you're not making content on a daily, what are you doing with your life? And he just like pretends to be the whole Gary Vee when he's ripping on people and whatnot. And I think it's really funny when he does that because it really showcases how some people don't read into situations. And we've mentioned it on the podcast before with Gary Vee, with hustle culture, with
Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek.
Yeah. There's a lot of circumstances where people just don't let the context come and then they will just strawman something. So say, for example, let's do a Gary Vaynerchuk analogy here. So you go, okay, so you say something nice about Gary Vee, or you say something about Gary Vee hustle culture. So then the person goes, oh, so you're telling me you have to, so this is the world we live in. We have to go and we have to live like Gary Vee and we have to work nonstop. And if we don't ever stop working, then we're not living a perfect life, right? That's what you're saying. You have to work every single day and that's the only way you can live. And that's like, well, that's not like, because if Gary Vee made that argument to me, obviously I'm not going to subscribe to that.
Yeah.
But you're strawmanning what like he actually, you're leaving out a lot of context with the strawman argument.
Yes. Yeah. With the Gary Vee example, you just pull that out to absurdum where it's just like, you hustle 24/7, don't sleep, just work. And it's like, really, is that a world we live in? Well, no, Gary Vee wouldn't even say that. You just made that up.
Yeah.
Without fully understanding what he's saying. It's headline research, which I think is, maybe we're wired a little differently now because of social media, possibly, making us straw man more than we should.
I think, and I was mentioning this to this earlier, I think that's why I really like the podcasts I listen to and why I probably stopped listening to sports podcasts and started listening to more NPR, more The Journal, more The Daily, more of these things that mention the news, but kind of break down some of the big headlines. So I would like to be relatively versed on things going on and not headline read. I don't care about headline reading sports anymore. I realized in the past year, I feel like this is very post the Chiefs won in 2020. And I was like, yeah, this is probably like the most I'm gonna be able to experience joy for a sport. So I'll probably get really into listening to sports all the time. And then I fell off a cliff because it was like, you know what, does all this context matter? None of this matters. Like none of what they're saying really, it's just talking head crap, to be blunt. And then I get into these scenarios where someone will bring up a topic I care about at that time. And I was like, I would like to look more into like what happened with the condos in Florida, the condo building in Florida that collapsed. Now I'm aware that there may have been some issues in regards to the structure and it was reinforced concrete, and I know more about it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be strawmanned against. I don't want to strawman at somebody. So that's why I listen to that kind of stuff more now. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with that. It's like, it's not only ignorance on topic, because I think both of us do a good job of this as just being enthusiasts of everything, is if we don't know something, we don't try to, straw man it and, make this proposition that we do know what it is, when we're really just making some, diluted version of the argument that we can then attack. I think that, straw manning it's ignorance plus some kind of aggression where you actually just want to attack someone when you actually just have no idea. Or maybe you're Captain Sinbad and you understand it so well, but you still just want to
mocking it.
You just want to distort it, which I don't know.
That's funny, dude.
I guess it's still straw manning, but it's a little more sophisticated.
I think straw manning, though, for the sake of comedic effect and for the sake of sarcasm, is perfectly executed, though. Because what you're doing is you're nearly straw manning the straw man, or you're counter arguing the straw man with a point of showcasing, this is what you built up. So this is this fake argument person that you're trying to attack. You're attacking a straw man. This is what you're attacking. You actually think he acts like this? You know what I mean? That's what he's doing, and it's perfect. Like there's a lot of Ali Abdaal haters from what I've noticed recently. Mm-hmm. I would say he's someone I listen to the content the most because I really like his podcast. If Matt still made non-Patreon podcasts where he had guests on, Matt D'Avella, I would listen to him more. However, he has 100 episodes ish, a little over, and I exhausted most of those. Yeah. In the first 2 years I listened to him, so I don't have more content to work with. But him, Thomas Frank, they can get memed on really hard, and they can get made fun of or insulted on the internet. And I always want to give these context to people, but I know I can't fight his battles for him. So when Captain Sinbad made both of those videos for Matt and Ollie, I was like, okay, thank God, because some of these people just make up this stuff. I feel like about this. Oh, so everyone can be a junior doctor and also be a YouTuber and also have a software business on the side and make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and choose to do this. Dude, you're just bragging. Stop. And I'm like, clearly not. Clearly he's never said that.
Yeah, exactly.
But Captain Sinbad made a video, so I didn't have to do that.
It is really it is meta that Captain Sinbad does that. He is literally attacking the straw man by
showing the ridiculousness of the straw man.
Creating exactly what the straw man thinks what Ollie or Thomas Frank is, or whatever. David Goggins, that's my favorite one.
That's a good one. Who's gonna carry the boats?
All the bones in my feet are broken. That guy's hard.
I like David Goggins. I had a buddy of mine, Vince, the ultra runner I've had on the podcast before. I texted him. I don't know if I should say it on the podcast, but I texted him when he said, I don't know if his shirt said "Stay Hard" or "I Stay Hard," and I just was like, that better be a Goggins reference. Otherwise, just don't put that on your Instagram, buddy.
Yeah,
because I'm sorry, but that just sounds so on the border of being sexual if you don't know about David Goggins. It just sounds wrong, man.
Really bad. It's a bad straw man, though. It's very vulnerable to being straw manned.
It is.
Stay hard.
Stay hard. It's because someone would be like, really, dude? Gross. And then I joked with him and I texted him this, but it's just like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on, David. You got to know that this could be. I don't think it's good. And I wonder your thoughts around this. Should people care about whether they're setting themselves up to be straw man? Because I hedge on this podcast a fair amount.
You thinking that you're saying
I'm
people
asking,
should
do you
just
think,
hard stop more often instead of hedging?
I'm saying, should someone just say things without hedging as much? Because obviously I'm getting into stoicism recently. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on, should people hedge? Should David Goggins either do that and not care, or should he hedge and do it? What should he?
It's interesting because I think hedging in a lot of places provides the right context and a more holistic idea that you're trying to portray. But if your idea is hard, fast X and there's no room for hedging Y, then don't hedge Y.
Okay.
So to answer your question about hedging, I'm going to hedge and say that it depends on the context.
Damn you.
Meta hedge.
That was a meta hedge. Good on you though for that. I think that was a smart response. I think that was good. I agree that there are some contexts where hedging is necessary. I feel like with a lot of the more touchy subjects that we talk about when they get actually pretty political, like with the wealth gap one, I hedged a lot because I don't want to obviously my viewpoint on the wealth gap was more liberal than conservative. So I had to hedge a lot against maybe conservative listeners out of respect for both sides, as I am the ridiculous moderate that I am, because it's 2021 and who thinks about both sides?
That's true.
Social commentary.
And perhaps it is partially epistemological, where it's just if you actually know, something with politics, it's something where you can't know all sides. Of course you have to hedge. But if it's something where you're if it's a personal truth or something that you actually could full know, then maybe it is something where you don't hedge and you just put yourself out there. Like with David Goggins, stay hard. That's his thing. I mean, if that helps him make mental calluses and fight off the fat, depressed version of himself, then,
he was there.
And then good for you, man. Don't put yourself out there.
Because I definitely think I get strawmanned by our friends with my content and stuff a lot. Would you say? Is this fair?
Would you get made fun of a lot?
I mean,
straw man.
It's a straw man making fun of me.
Yeah.
It's never, there's no context.
Yeah, the guys
there's never any context.
Yeah, the guys who are you didn't time block this? And it's well, no, I didn't time block everything.
I have responded very bluntly, no, I didn't time block to go take a dump. Dude, I didn't say dump, but it's come on. Sometimes I don't get people, but yeah, okay. I was just curious whether if you notice that happens. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't even imagine what that feels like on a larger scale to people who are in the spotlights that they are.
I imagine it has to be incredibly frustrating. I mean, you want to go to the Tim Ferriss example. I think this is one of the first times we saw in the podcast us kind of talking around straw manning without directly saying it. Mm-hmm. But, it's the whole title of the 4 Hour Work Week. It's just it's so clickbaity, and everyone I'm sure that doesn't read it or only reads part of it, what have you, they walk away and they're like, there's no way you can work 4 hours a week. Like, he's absurd to say that. And it's like, he's really, it's so nuanced, right? Like, it's like, you're really not saying that. And sure, at the end of the day, you could do that. And that is like his truth, is like, you could work 4 hours a week and that is what he does. Mm-hmm. But there's so much more context to it.
You know what's hilarious? Something very meta that we kind of rolled past in that argument, or maybe we talked about it, but dude, reading a book by its cover. I mean, come on. It's 2021 and we just like forgot that phrase existed or something. Like, don't read a book by its cover.
Yeah, exactly.
And why is that something that seems to be falling off? What do you think?
What, people not reading a book by its cover?
Sorry, some people forgetting that that's not what we shouldn't do about a lot of things. Whether it's the book that we read in Tim Ferriss, whether it's the people. What are your thoughts on that?
I think part of it is, like I said earlier, I think a big part of it is social media. Yeah. I think it's Instagram infographics that people think are, Bible now, instead of like actually reading like academic papers that derive this information, or surveys, whatever. Or I don't know. And peel back another layer. Like, if you're like getting your information from a survey, is this a biased sample? Is it a self-selected sample? Like, there's so many layers, and yet people just look for the bare minimum amount of info or headline that they can get, and then just run with that. And I think one thing that I was thinking about when we were, deciding to do this on straw manning is that, do you hear that thing about Twitter where I think it's a new policy? I don't know if it's like something that still exists, but I knew they were at least proposing it, where if you were going to retweet an article that you hadn't clicked on and read yet, you get an alert that says, you haven't read this article. Are you sure you want to repost this?
Wow.
And when you retweet it, I'm not sure if this is true or if I'm making this up, but I'm pretty sure it would say like, this person has not read this article, like, just so you know.
Dude, that'd be so good if that's the case.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Because like, if someone, retweet and comments it with, I feel X about this, but you didn't even read it. Ooh, clearly straw manning.
Big oof, F's in the chat. Because I feel like people will do that a lot, and it's ridiculous when things come up like that, because they don't even know what they're saying about things. They don't even know what they're arguing against, and that's something that's frustrating, or arguing for.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot about this during a lot of the political polarization that's happened over the time that we've seen it.
Yeah, that's definitely another factor of it.
Like, we see these people who are making these arguments for things or against things. For example, I think with us and like running, there's a lot of questions about the whole transgenders in sports things. And I'm not going to get into it. I'm just saying people make arguments about that, literally knowing no context about track at all. And I'm like, you don't know what you're arguing for. You don't know what like requirements that the IAAF is putting on there. And you're just saying stuff like, oh, so you're saying, like, for a straw man, someone would be like, so you're saying somebody, who was born a certain way can't compete. Like, no, I'm not. Like, that's not what No, you're leaving out a lot. And that's an example. And I don't want to get into it. But, it's there.
No, I agree. And I think it really has hit home with like the Shelby Houlihan and the Sha'Carri Richardson incidences. I feel like everyone's got a take on that right now. And it's like, there's so few people that have the full context of what it is to, be a track athlete, or, the nuances of policy and, drug testing and stuff like that.
I was actually talking about this in the 4th with some people. Mildly, I don't think my thought process was affected by the 4th at that point as much as others were. But I was making an argument, essentially, that it's interesting to me that the only form of entertainment that doesn't have drug usage as a prerequisite is the world of being an athlete. Isn't that funny to me? Isn't that funny to you?
Yeah, that was an interesting observation. How like every other form of entertainment, like,
the prerequisite is you should do drugs.
Yeah,
in order to be,
it's definitely not going to hurt you.
It's definitely like, it's like an in to like be able to like join social circles in a lot of scenarios. So I was like, kind of, especially since she had competed at, like, for Sha'Carri Richardson, she had competed at the Olympic trials in the state that had legalized weed 2nd or 3rd in the United States, and has been that way for like 5 or 6 years. I'm like, really? You're gonna, like, it was legal? And like, so I know there's arguments on both sides, but I thought it was interesting. People were like, immediately like, it's her job. Like, she has to adhere to the rules. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fair. However, this is the only form of entertainment where like it's not a part of being an entertainment. Kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. And then some people would say, well, it's not entertainment. It's them trying to perform to the best. And I'm like, well, would any of this really exist if it wasn't also kind of entertainment? Because what does anyone have like, like what? Yeah. Like what's the point of it existing if like nobody's gonna watch? And as well as the whole, I'm like, yeah, y'all are living out the context of literally girl was trying to maybe appease her emotional state due to the fact that her mom died like a week before that. And like, chill, bro. Like, chill. Her mom died. Yeah. But, anyways.
People build up false images, man. Those damn straw men. You know what I was thinking about while I was thinking, I was cooking up the topic idea in my head. I was thinking, what would Dimitri Panici, what would a Captain Sinbad Dimitri Panici episode look like? Watches Dimitri Panici once.
Okay, like let's go with more with my self-helpy stuff that I've made over the year.
I think it'd be
a lot of essentially or inherently.
Yeah. Inherently, you have to wake up at 5 a.m.
If you don't wake up at 5 a.m., what are you doing? If you're not time blocking your calendar, you are wasting whatever. If you switch what you're doing at any point in time, you are wasting hours of your life. You're never going to get those hours back. I don't believe in anything more than 5 hours. I don't believe in anything more than 5 cycles of REM. If you're getting more than 5 REM cycles, you are wasting your life. Just dumb stuff.
I gave up drinking water for 30 days.
Yeah, the 30 days, you got to make a joke about that. Like someone has to, if they did that, that's perfect. I gave up having a life for 30 days, like just something stupid.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny.
Or just me. I'm trying to think of another one. Definitely, I don't know. There's some dumb. I feel like I've said dumb things. Just like in my channel, I've said things that can come off kind of stupid in some of my vlogs before.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a repeat incident of something dumb that you.
Oh, you know what? The running joke for myself that people didn't realize was a joke was the food B-roll. That was a meme. Like, that was on purpose.
Oh, that was the one. I was thinking like, kind of like how the Joe Rogan one is like, Jamie, pull that up. He'd be like, you got to get B-roll for this.
You got to get B-roll.
Everything that happens, like, Dimitri's like, get B-roll.
Like, I will be, when we lived together, I whipped out the camera multiple times when Chantz was cooking. And a lot of that B-roll was not me cooking. It was just Chantz cooking.
Yo, B-roll that.
I was like, hey, buddy, can you like use this camera or can I use this camera while you're cooking? And you'd be like, yeah, okay.
That would definitely be Captain Sinbad. I feel like you mentioned B-roll even when you're A-rolling.
That's true. I bring up B-roll. I like use the terminology much more than the average YouTuber.
You do.
What is up with that?
I don't know.
What do I have to explain what the roll is? Like, who cares? Like, I explained it in a how I make my Notion video. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned, I was laughing about it too because I said, record A-roll, or edit A-roll, edit B-roll, edit extra B-roll over A-roll. And I laughed because I'm like, what are you saying?
Yep. Hey man, it's your brand, like we said, just full send it. Like if people want to straw man you, let them do it. You gotta self-brand.
Yeah. I had a question for you regarding this whole, we're going to talk about stoicism at some point, but where do you see philosophically this situation lies as a most popular opinion with the Stoics? Do they say in this scenario, okay, I'm not going to care about people who can't headline read. I can only do what I can control. Like, do you think we should make a movement in regards to stopping the straw manning, or do you think it should just be as is and we can only control our non-straw manning?
Yeah, I would agree with the latter. I think that you can control your own straw manning. You should be informed on what you can know, but to some extent, and this is once again me saying that there's limits to knowledge here, and at some point you either straw man or you say nothing. So I think that you probably know this at this point, but one of the 4 pillars of Stoicism is wisdom. Mm-hmm. And it's being able to differentiate between what you can control, what you can't control, and what is just indifferent. And I think that understanding what you cannot know and then realizing that you shouldn't strawman because of that, like understanding your own ignorance, I think that, it nips it in the bud where it's like if you know not to be ignorant or understand your own ignorances, then you're never able to straw man.
Very true. And do you want to break down the 4 pillars real quick, just for the individuals?
What are they? Wisdom, temperance.
Mm-hmm.
This is bad. I
you're not.
I know the other 2. Do you?
I feel like since it's fresh in my mind.
Justice.
Justice, yeah. Just temperance, justice, virtue.
Virtue?
No, sorry, it's 4. Wait, isn't the 4 virtues?
Maybe.
No, 4 pillars of stoicism. Yeah, 4 pillars of stoicism. I think virtue is that. Yeah. The 4 virtues of stoicism: temperance, self-control, discipline,
self-control.
and modesty. Wait, is that right?
And see, that's everything with stoicism.
Wisdom, justice, courage, moderation.
Wisdom. Oh yeah, wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Sorry,
courage.
guys. We need to sometimes be more prepared when we whip things out. But
that was embarrassing. No, I mean, I think stoicism is one of those schools that there's been so many prominent figures who take it in their own direction. I wouldn't be surprised if there's different takes out there about what the 4 pillars should be.
Very true.
Wording.
Yeah, and I think the understanding one, like not the. I think just understanding what we can and we can't control really plays into effect here, because a lot of people get really upset when they see things headline wise that they don't agree with, and they'll be like, well, why is this happening? I want this to be different. Let me make this straw man argument against it and try to tear it down immediately. I wish sometimes people would have the temperance to stop this immediate attack of some situations. We have some really good and smart people in this world, but I feel straw manning is something that happens more often than that I'd like to see. There's so many, and I do it a fair amount sometimes too, where I'll be arguing with somebody about a certain topic, and then I will make that ridiculous analogy, and it will be so leading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you you just abstract exactly like what they're saying into something different.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it with guys on our team. I'm trying to think if there's been arguments where you've been in the room for that.
I feel like you do that when you say like you always pull out like the logic card. You're always like, so like I'm using your own logic to say this.
I do that a lot.
Maybe they didn't mean that,
Yeah, I do that. I'll admit it. You
do kind of eschew someone's logic and into a certain formula for yourself.
Yeah, I think I need to break away from that. I'll make some admittance of my faults here.
I mean, sometimes it's just right, I mean,
sometimes I do overdo it.
Sure.
If I'm losing, that's my go-to counter argument, because I will think, well, their logic's not like, maybe what their whole argument is almost good, but their logic is flawed. I'm gonna attack that, so I gotta stop doing that.
Yeah, that's funny. Hey, it's a good way to go about attacking something,
Yeah, the logic base.
Yeah, exactly. What was I gonna say? I do agree that headlining is a big issue with straw manning, but I think that to add another layer to what we can and can't control, I think people need to realize that it is a system that's in place. It's just like when someone gets mad at a headline, that's almost intentional. There are people out there who are making these headlines to be polarizing or
to drive a wedge between people too.
Exactly. At the least, you want to make it clickable. And so I think people need to be wise enough to realize that there is a lot of, mousetraps out there that are trying to get you into a straw man situation. And you got to be able to either, dig deeper, read more than just the headline, more than just the first paragraph of the article.
Yeah.
Or just, I don't know, don't have a stake in the argument. And obviously, I think I don't think ignorance is really excusable in most cases. As you said earlier, not listening to sports podcasts anymore.
Yeah, I'm not listening to that because I don't think some of these large issues that come up when I don't think it's bad to have that Tim Ferriss thought process of, okay, I just want to hear what my friends say about something and I'll get the news that way. I don't think that overall is bad. Now, when there's hard-hitting issues that can be solved with a vote, that's where I think maybe, you can do what you can to control that. And he does mention that as well. He mentions, I will be versed leading up to an election, and then that'll help me make decisions, because that makes impact. But I think a big thing here, and the stoicism is flowing through me and the thought process is flowing through me, is I think with straw mans, And with people refusing to listen to the oldest saying of all time, as in, don't read a book by its cover, understanding that difference between understanding the difference between what is and what we imagine something is needs to be broken down by further research than just our short-term attention spans. Because I think as this attention span thing keeps shrinking with the more Instagram Reels and more TikToks people watch, I think this issue will become larger. And that sounds ridiculous, but TikTok, as well as its parent company, is about to launch an IPO. I just know this company is going to blow up even more. And it concerns me to the effect of people's, ability to focus on more than just the initial. Because I've seen some things with myself, and I'm not on social media much, and you're not either. But I notice sometimes I'm very snappy with my certain situations. I've gone through and tried to go through software sometimes that I had a sinus infection, and I got tested for COVID just in case, and I had issues with finding where it was. Granted, it was pretty bad, where to find it. However, I didn't take as much effort as I maybe could have, and this is a bigger analogy for anything. I headline read the software and was like, yeah, it's not here. Like, there's no notification for where it is. I looked for like 20 seconds. I'm done. I'm going to call the doctor in a few days if this doesn't come up. And I think it's a bigger analogy for even people like me who don't spend all this time on this social media that immediately takes your focus away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think with straw manning, it's not just reading the book by its cover, but then going on to write
a counter argument. Notes. Yeah, Spark Notes based on the cover.
Right. It's like, oh, let me tell you like a whole summary of the book. And it's like, don't do that.
Yeah, because we talked about name, image, likeness last week, 5 minutes ago. And there was these arguments we're going against a lot of straw mans in that scenario where I do this a lot in the podcast. I'll be like, okay, so you're saying this, and then I go back and attack the straw man a lot before they even hit us. And I think with subjects like that, there are a lot of people who have opinions on name, image, likeness and the subjects of the like. And they'll immediately go with, oh, I don't want college athletes to get paid. They need to be amateurs. And then they don't really know what it means to be a college athlete and all those sort of things. So I definitely think even at some large subjects, it's not even like new headlines. There's just large subjects that have been around for a while. People have these very concrete definitions of things and circumstances, like name, image, likeness, like college athletes getting paid. And they'll view it from this one standpoint of this one article they headline read. For example, some people say, you know how like Northwestern athletes wanted to get paid and wanted to be unionized?
Oh, yeah.
Now, while I agree with said people that it's interesting how it's a bad choice actually financially because they'd have to get taxed on that income and then they'd get less than their scholarship. Like, that's actually very fair.
Yeah, no,
but
I didn't even think about that.
Going into it immediately with this argument of, oh, they shouldn't get paid at all. It's like, no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about them making money off of like other things. No, we're not talking about their scholarship. That's a separate thing.
Yeah.
But some people combine the two.
Yeah, and that's wrong too, right? I mean, they're just different entities.
And I think headline reading leads to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think that another place I always feel this is in philosophical dialogues I try to have with people, because I know where some people are getting their sources, and it's from YouTube videos. There are so many. I'm waiting for someone to make really good philosophy YouTube videos, because there's no one out there that, I mean, Crash Course does it in a poor way. There's maybe one channel I know, but he's only interested in like one philosopher, which is fine. Or I guess all the postmodernists, but which I guess is better. But there's so many inadequate videos out there that are trying to explain fields of philosophy. And not only are these people probably not reading everything, but then people watch these videos thinking it's scripture. And then they come to me with these arguments and they're like, oh, well, like Nietzsche thinks that like God is dead. So like, he's like definitely atheist and like just like hates the world, right? Like he was suicidal, right? And I was like, no,
really,
like,
yeah.
Like, did you ever read anything by him? Like, this isn't. I'm not like, and you try not to gatekeep because that's the other end of the spectrum. True. But I don't know. It's bad, man.
It happens a lot. I've seen it too. Yeah. I think you would like Ryan Holiday and the Daily Stoic, his YouTube channel and the podcast, and a book that's. The Daily Stoic is just a bunch of quotes, but then he has Ego as the Enemy. I think we should review that at some point.
Yeah,
but
that'd be cool.
He makes good from my opinion, I think he makes good podcasts and some good YouTube videos on philosophy and obviously Stoicism in particular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I believe it. And I guess I would have to, I don't know, it's hard to say for you, right? Because you haven't read direct text from much Stoicism. I guess you're
That's
reading
fair.
How to Be a Stoic.
How to Be a Stoic pulls in a lot of direct text, which
True.
is different though. I think I really want to read, but even Meditations is just a guy's journal.
Yeah, but that's all of it, man. That's every philosopher. It's just their journal.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I really want to read Meditations.
When you realize that philosophy is just people's personal takes with like the context of other people's takes,
and then with profound statements like going along with their thoughts. Yeah.
Yes, like you got to make up a new word. You got to understand someone else's takes, and then boom.
These guys, these philosophers. Look at them. Look at this guy. Just look at that. Look at this guy. This philosopher. Yeah, I think you make a good point though there. I think that is what philosophy is like, and I truly believe that. I was actually thinking about some straw mans leading up into this, and there's some situations that definitely come up in our day-to-days that I feel like happen a lot. So I talk about productivity a lot, right? And I referred to earlier how our friends will straw man me.
Mm-hmm.
We have a particular friend that we used to room with that would straw man me a lot on the whole productivity subjects in some circumstances. You know what I'm referring to? IC.
Yes.
Yeah. IC is a really nice guy. I miss that guy. He's in Peru right now. But he would strawman me a lot on some certain things that were just, I don't want to say I was objectively correct in some arguments, but there were some scenarios where I would try to help him organizationally, and he would basically try to argue against whether I was right or not, using what I was saying as if it was kind of different than what it was. Do you remember these? You were there.
Yeah.
And he would sometimes do this, and you would just be nodding your head like, dude, that's not what he's saying at all. Like, yes. You're in the wrong. You know what you're doing, and it may be kind of funny. I think about that a lot with the content I make, because a lot of people will make arguments against, productivity apps. They will say, I don't work like that. And you know what's funny? None of them have tried it.
There you go, man. That's the ignorance.
Guess who didn't try a productivity app until 2020?
Who?
Me.
Yeah,
never. I used OneNote. Sorry, 2019 October or September was the first time I used a productivity app, and my life changed. But people will initially see something like productivity apps and say, "Oh, it's so complicated." It happened with the how I make my videos in Notion. I think the comments were good on that, but I'm just saying some people were saying, "Oh, I don't know if I get into like that. I think it's a little too complex for me." Did you try?
Oh man, I'll be the first to admit Notion is difficult to navigate at first, and I think that's the reason I'm still not 100% on the wave.
Yeah, but if you got around,
at the same time, I'm not gonna go bash Notion. I still think clearly it's reached its status for some reason, and I want to get into it.
Yeah,
and I still use it to an extent. But
yeah, I just feel that with the content I make sometimes, and I don't want to say anything negative or disparaging to people who are actually don't work like that, but I genuinely think sometimes people should give things a try. It's like another old-fashioned saying, but don't knock it till you try it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the artist's anxiety too. It's like anyone who puts, content out there, regardless of what it is, music, videos, what have you, they're always, there's always a fear that you're not going to communicate yourself the same way that you hope. Your intentions will never be the same as what's understood. So it just, I don't know. It almost seems inevitable that there's going to be some straw manning because, what you think and then what you say and then what you hear me say and what turns into, what you register in your brain will never be the same.
But we can't control that.
We can't control that.
We can only control what we attempt to get on the table.
Exactly. We have to take this inaccurate system, keep it precise, and just, I don't know, anything else we can't control, just try not to straw man,
Try not to be mad at the straw manning either, I guess.
Exactly.
I think the Stoicism thing has really, really helped me in the past few months. It's funny, I didn't start reading How to Be a Stoic until you gave it to me last week, but I had started implementing. I think we had talked about this more personal stuff when I was saying, I guess I can't control how X person is acting. Did you notice I did start talking like that even before I started reading it?
That's true.
I did start talking about that with my career too. I was like, well, I'm doing my best with these races, and some of these races are just not working. But I tried, and I can't control it. But my younger self would have been really pissed. Like,
yeah.
Really mad. Like, you would not have talked to me for a few days. Like, I was bad about it when I was younger.
Oh, I'm sure. You know, I think with this past year in the pandemic, we've realized who strawmans a lot, and also who is clearly not a stoic.
Yeah. Okay.
And a lot of those people fall into the same group. There's a lot of people out there who
yeah.
read a headline or build up some situation, augment it in their mind, and then they get so mad as if it's in their control. But it's not. And the only thing you can do is, you know, control how you feel about it. And I think this is stoicism that says that when, you know, you let aggression, you know, like erupt into hurting others or saying things that you might end up regretting, you end up only hurting yourself.
Very true. And what's interesting to this, and we'll obviously get more into this in another episode, but I noticed in my personal circles, there are some situations where I think last year, especially when the pandemic was at its worst, you know, when we were really in our house and couldn't go out or anything, I had a very different mindset. I felt like from LP, I'm like, oh, I get so much more done now. Like, I can't control what the government's doing. I can't control what like Anthony Fauci's doing. I can't control this, but I can control the lies or whatever people were worried about. I can only control, like, I have extra time now. Might as well use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just optimize your situation, man.
Because if you focus on those other things, and I didn't realize that could be really tailored towards personal situations. This is the nice thing I'm learning about stoicism. This is what's nice. I'm learning more about the knowledge of what can I control. I really, even though it was easy enough for me to understand this. It was easy enough for me to understand I can't change what the government is making me do. That's easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But what was really hard for me to understand is I can't change somebody's opinion when I'm having an argument with them, or if I'm having a recurring relationship issue. I can't change their opinion on a certain subject. I can only do my best to say my feelings. And if it doesn't, you know, if something doesn't go a certain situation, or a certain way in a situation, I can't get mad because I did my best.
Oh yeah, I agree. That's probably my favorite analogy that I've definitely used on this podcast before, but it comes from Stoicism. I think it may have been Epictetus.
Probably, yeah.
And it's like about, you know, practicing your shot as many times as you can, sharpening your arrow. But when you go to shoot the target with your bow and arrow and the wind blows it away, that's outside your control.
That's actually, so I just read that a few chapters ago in How to Be a Stoic. Epictetus, I believe, references the whole, getting as much as you can set up for this arrow shot, but wind, you know, your muscles aren't going to do exactly what your brain tells it to do.
Mm-hmm.
Even with disease and stuff, I didn't realize, like, why. I mean, obviously people can be emotional about the fact that they got cancer or something. I'm just saying, you know, you really can't say you're a perfectly healthy individual and you get cancer. The whole "why is this happening to me" situation puts into perspective when, oh, I guess I can't really control whether I get it or not. Yeah. I did what I could. I should be happy with that. Granted, you know, there's morbid difference between that and the arrow situation. However, I think if you want to see this episode or any other episode of the Rise Productive podcast, make sure to go and check the show out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else that you can find podcasts today.